Uh, wow, it's been a little while. Welcome.
It has been a little while. It has. 'Tis the truth.
So, this is Relic Buds, episode 4, right?
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
Man, I'm so excited. So we took like a week or two off because you came into town, and we did a game convention, and then as soon as
Mm-hmm.
we got back, we did some playtesting, and then you had to go back to your home in the mountains,
Yep.
and
The
then I
mountain
had to get
retreat.
back to trying to get all the Relic Blade inventory dealt with. But we're on a roll. It's a new Monday, a beautiful day to record a podcast,
Yeah.
and a
It's feeling
beautiful
like a
day to
productive day.
connect with the Relic Buds.
Mm-hmm. Relic Buds. Shout out to all the Relic Buds that came through at KublaCon too. That was pretty sweet to actually oh man, people listen to the podcast. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. It was awesome to hear. Like some feedback of just hearing back that people liked hearing about Relic Blade and catching up with Metal King, and yeah, that was great. Um, it was tough. Because like traveling to cons is a lot of work, and so I do what I can to get ready for them and prep, and I need to work through the vendor hours, but then also try to put on events, and thankfully you were there to help, because otherwise I would have perished.
Yes, I think there was on Thursday we were both feeling the end of the day because it was just such a confusing day. And I mean,
Yeah.
traveling to do the conventions is so fun, but traveling these days is so weird.
Yep.
Right now, because when I was waiting to board, there was, for lack of a better term, like a zombie lady who was trying to get on the plane with me. And she just looked like she was in a lot of pain or really tired, or I just didn't know what was going on. And she tried
It
to.
was like the prologue to an Outbreak
It
movie.
was That's exactly how it felt. She said something to me, and I had my headphones in. I said, "What?" She said, "Oh, I just was wondering if I had my purse." And I was like, okay. And I immediately thought, man, I hope I don't sit next to that lady on the plane. And as I was boarding the plane, counting up those little, I sit on 26. Okay. Right, I see this 26, look right below it, and I see her face just slumped in the chair, mouth all agape, open, just looking like a fly could just fly in there, and it wouldn't even matter. It was just
And of
cavernous.
course,
And I'm like, it's right that and I'm sitting there like, oh my god, and then my anxiety immediately, like if there was like a game that for some reason there was a travel game, and you had travel stats based on anxiety before you just wig out on the plane, just lose it, just snap. It was just like the meter filled up a little bit.
yeah,
You know?
it's like in Darkest Dungeon that there's like the stress meter
Uh huh.
where people get closer to madness, and you just like took a whole bunch of damage.
I was just like, oh no, like I gotta. And then I don't like the window seats because it just feels claustrophobic. But in this case, I was feeling a little bit of relief because there was a lady in between us, and she was a super nice lady. We were having a great conversation flying. I had my mask on. She didn't initially, but she was saying, if it makes you feel comfortable, I could put it on. And I was like, it's okay, it's okay. And we were both sort of like not really saying anything, but both acknowledging, patient zero right next to us on the seat there, head all slumped, just like baby neck, limp, just dangling. I was just like, oh my god, I was concerned, So we're having a great conversation, and right in the middle, right, kind of halfway point playing, this lady kind of wakes up and just starts like coughing, and the lady next to me just gave me like the crate, like the open his eyes, like, oh my goodness, look, and then slowly started to like, while turned to me, slowly retrieve a mask from like her jacket pocket and like slip it on in the quickest and silentest fashion that she could. And then the lady got up and went to the bathroom, and homegirl next to me just started wiping everything down with this disinfectant thing, and we were both just like, I cannot believe this right now, you know. I cannot believe. So that whole situation, land on the plane, go, then end up doing the lift to get to Napa. I learned later that there's like two ways that you can kind of go, you know, from San Francisco to Napa. One of them is the wrong way, and one of them is the right way. And,
Yeah,
you know, shout outs to...
You can go in like a straight line, or you can go way around.
yes. And shout out to Giancarlo, the Lyft driver, because we went on a journey together across Middle Earth. It felt like
we like to call it the scenic route.
Yes, and yeah, it was, because I mean, I went through the Golden Gate Bridge. It was cool, you know. Yeah. But while I was stuck in traffic out there, you know, after that whole day and the lady and the drive, I was like, man, I kind of like feel not great, a little queasy, you know. And then finally, I arrive at your house. What's up? Oh, celebrations, you know, made it. And then Sarah comes out and it's like, let's go get something to eat. I'm like, yes, that sounds great. I haven't eaten anything all day, you know. We go Ford's Pizza. Sarah gets the barbecue pizza. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just down to try whatever you guys down, you know, whatever. Let's go. We'll get more if we need more, you know. Go to the bathroom, return, you know. Have some of the watermelon salad. For some reason, I'm chewing. It's difficult. I don't know. Oh, man, this is hard. This is yeah. It's hard to get down. But I love
usually watermelon is like the hardest to chew.
Yeah, I love it. I'm sitting there going, what is what's going on? Oh my goodness, you know. And then let me try some of this barbecue pizza. And I just, you know, I know what barbecue pizza tastes like, but for whatever reason, I didn't like spend any time preparing my brain and, you know, mouth tongue centers with the signals. And I was just like, yo, this is difficult right now, where this is like the valley of the shadow of pizza death. Like I'm chewing it and we're trying to get it down. And then after I get it down, thank goodness the people behind us, they got up, hostess was gone, and I'm sitting there, you know, you're doing the calculations. It's like the Zach Galifianakis meme where he's like doing all the math to float in the front. Yeah. That's just how I felt. And it was just like, yes, body signals incorrect, you know, like seek bathroom. And then it was just like the calculate too far, distance, you know, distance too great, you know, seek secondary source, you know. And my body was just getting up, and there was that trash can right by the door, and it was just like, just a little throw up, just a little bit, just a little bit. Thankfully managed to completely miss the mask that I was dangling off my neck right into the trash can. It was like the stealthest little like anxiety travel stomach bug throw up. It was just like, yo, we need to cleanse real quick, go back to 0, you know. And
like a panic induced.
It was just it was so weird, you know. But yeah, after that, and then I just sat back and just looked at you guys, and I was just like, well, I don't know what's going on, but you know. And so that first day, you know, was crazy. We went to sleep early that day. Start, yeah, you know, things right. Okay,
to be totally clear, yeah, we did all our COVID tests. And
sure next day, like, you know, I was like, all right, you know, I'm sitting there doing the self-diagnosis. I was like, I don't know what that was. You know, I don't know what that was. That was a thing, though. I guess I should take a COVID test. Did it, thankfully. No nasal, you know, no nasal COVID proteins or whatever it says on the swab thing. And then, yeah. And then still, you know, whatever that was, I guess it was just like we were saying, I had reached my madness scale at some point, and the body was like, all right, dude, like, this has been a weird day of you going in pressurized missile coffin tubes in the air, and then being in a pressurized like car that smells like so new, like kind of nauseatingly fresh. You know, like
and you were stuck in traffic for over 2 hours.
oh,
Like,
and yeah, you know, so there was a moment where I was like, yo, Giancarlo, roll down the window. But it was like just to breathe the exhaust filled car air. So it's like, do we get the triple tree freshener super scent air that is just like too fresh, or do we just get the complete contrast of the essence of car honk, you know? Like, it's crazy, like coming from where I come from, like Salt Lake, like driving through San Fran was like so different. It's just so cramped. Like that's the main difference for me between like even in Napa, there's similar things where it just feels like things are kind of just built wherever, you know. They're just like, what's that's a solar farm? Yeah, right there. Put it right next to the laundromat.
Yeah,
it's right next to
like,
you know.
we just have to fit it all in, especially
just,
here in Napa where we're in a valley. Like there's no more land.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you guys, Utah, you could just keep building Salt Lake City until it bleeds into every other city.
Pretty much, just
planet-wide.
There's plenty of stuff to knock down in case there isn't. You know, that's old. Just smash that. You know, like I put some apartments on there. You know,
oh yeah.
But yeah, it's this totally different vibe where it just feels more because it's being actively developed. There's a lot more of what appears to be like conscious thought. You know, it feels more like one of the Sims games where you're like, this is my industrial zone, and blah, blah, blah.
Oh yeah,
you know, and over here is all neighborhoods, and then connect this, and you got like all of these areas that are keeping the little meeples happy and stuff because of the requirements or something. But in California, there's just, remember I was joking about the Necromunda little city that's like one very very probably popular kids like bike field away from a neighborhood, you know, like it's just like neighborhood, cool bike hills, and super industrial. Yeah, you know, it's just like I was just thinking about looking out the window of my backyard and just seeing that like all the time, you know, just like all that stuff, you know. I was just like, man, because there's there's areas in Utah where that can happen, but it's much less like so right next to each other. But yeah, it's a whole trip, a whole different thing, you know.
And so while you were traveling, I was just in my garage under piles and piles of garbage, like trying to sort all the figures, make sure I had inventory. Discovered that I didn't actually have the 2-player box set in stock like I thought I did, but then I thought I had reordered
That's
them.
both good and bad. Holy smokes, man.
Sent the order to Fortress Figures, got the restock, but the 2-player set figures weren't in there because of a mix-up. But thankfully they came through and like got them to me really quick.
Just
turned
blasted
around for the show. But then, you know, that means sorting a ton of figures last minute. But it worked out really great. So even though it was exhausting to get to the show and then set up the show and then figure out what the heck was going on, once it was rolling, it was really cool to see everyone. It was really nice to be out, you know.
Yeah, my other favorite part is that I was thinking when we got to the back, you know, like every time I travel, when we're traveling back to this place, I was thinking about the hotel and stuff, and I was like, here we are loading in, like here's the same little hilly, little crappy sidewalk landing that goes into this back door that has this random hallway, and just like I was thinking about how funny it is to have memories associated with the back of the Hyatt hotel, like just these random doors that are, you know, like these access tunnels for catering and, you know, all deliveries and stuff, and that we were loading in, and we're like, where's everyone?
Oh gosh.
You know, where is everyone? And we're like, I guess we'll start setting up. You know, we set up now. It's just like an hour, maybe. You know, we build the 2 cases, kind of get the stuff the table set up.
Yeah, because we knew we were there. We knew we were there early
Yeah. But we didn't know.
We had to assemble those display cases, and
Mhm.
so I was like, we'll be here early, it'll be fun. And then like being here the day kind of before, we'll be able to play board games or whatever. But then like once we were set up, then it turned out we weren't even supposed to be there yet.
Yep.
And then
That was my
the hall
favorite.
didn't open in the morning the next day. It opened in the evening of the next day. So we were there like a full
We're there
24
at
hours
10, we're
before
there
we-
at 10. We're there. We wake up at like 9. Get the coffee.
Uh-huh.
Go back to the hall. Finish setting everything up. Boom, boom, boom. Get the figures. All the setup. Boom. It's looking nice. Oh, okay. Now we're ready. And we're sitting there, and it's like 30 minutes to what we think is open, and we're still the only people. There's like 2 other people.
Well, there were a couple other.
Yeah,
people
there was
set up,
a
but
couple.
It was mostly empty.
But we're
because-
like, what is going on here? And then someone's like, oh yeah, floor opens at 4. We're like,
yeah, it was super good
4?
because the info was hidden somewhere on the website.
Yeah.
I still couldn't find it by Sunday. I still couldn't find the schedule for the vendor hall.
yeah, we were like,
Uh,
okay, I guess we'll come back in like 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
And
well,
then
I mean,
that was
we
cool
drank
though.
beer. Yeah,
That
we
was
drank
cool.
beer and we played Scythe, fully painted Scythe.
Fully painted Scythe.
Yeah,
And
Greg
I did.
Horton, he went hard and he painted all the little Scythe minis, so we
Yeah,
had little
that was-
mechs
and that game is
maybe the most beautifully painted tiger I've ever played with.
Oh, that's true.
Stripes.
And I played
Oh,
with
was
it.
Great.
That was my tiger lady. And,
So that was a lot of fun. We built mechs and drank beers and shot cannons.
and I
at
was
each other.
very bad at it the first time. And I thought that
No,
was
I
the
think it was-
second time.
No, the second time was when you were profoundly bad.
Yeah, no. That's what I was gonna say. Like
The first
that.
time it was like, I think we're getting the hang of this. You use
Okay.
the meeples.
Now for the second game, I'm gonna employ everything I know to almost like if there's like a possible bad score like threshold, like I think I scored like 15. And that's like not even recognizable. If there was a threshold, it'd be like poor score, like 35 to 40. Ooh, we'll try it better next time. But my shit was just like the designer would have walked away from my table. He would have been like, I gotta go.
Yeah, I mean, he would have known that you didn't read the rule book. You were just
That's true.
explained to
That's
you
true.
while it-
That's true. He's like, oh, you're not supposed to be planning for your second what's it, secret
It was
objective?
because you tried to do 2 secret objectives
Mhm.
and you can only do 1, and they're hard. They're like throughout the game.
Yeah, you have
do
to
one of
pretty
these.
much focus on doing it. And Greg's face when I was like, and I do my second one, he's like, why? I was like, what do you mean why?
Place a star. Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean why? He's like, you can only do 1. I was like, well, that's not good, you know.
Yeah. So, and then
So,
all right,
and
but
then we
definitely
returned
the highlight,
to at 4.
the highlight of the con. Oh, go on.
I was gonna say that somehow, even though we returned at 4, because we woke up early, set it up, went and chilled, drank, played some games, figured out what we would do. Hall opened at 4, first people was swinging through, and even though it was only open from 4 to 8, it felt like it was open from 4 to like 4. Like it was
I know. It
somehow
was like
the longest.
day.
It was just like.
Yeah, I think it's when your body's prepared to work from certain hours to certain hours, like you just plan for it, and then if the plan changes, I can't do it. But yeah, but Saturday night was the Relic Blade event, and we had like 20 people show up.
Yes,
We're
that was
expecting
so hype.
maybe 10, and like a bunch of people coming through, checking out, showing a bunch of people how to play. Yeah, we had a ton of fun. Set up a bunch of cool tables using the black site terrain, using my scratch built terrain.
I know, like when we brought so much terrain, because like one thing we kind of glossed over is like we, being just a small little team that's traveling, fitting everything in the car that we wanted to bring, that was like on Tetris level master, know.
Yeah, and it's funny because getting the booth to look okay is one thing, but then being able to run events is like a whole other job.
Yeah, and so we
Yeah,
had
have to
so
double
much
down.
terrain, and I remember thinking like, we have so much terrain, like what, this is crazy, like this is so much terrain. But when we were running that event, I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness we have all this terrain,
Oh, absolutely.
because I was like able to just put together these
I
tables.
mean,
And it was
if
just
we
like,
could have set up 4 more tables or even 6 more tables, we would have had players for it. You know, people would have played.
yeah, I think I remember reading a couple of people did not get their chance to throw down, but
Yeah, which is so sad. I did get to play a game.
yes, you
I
did.
got to play a game against Samwise finally at the end, but then, like, because I always am just playtesting or whatever, finally getting to play, I just like steamrolled him. The dice were in my favor. The warband build was like super hard and just crushed him. It was sad. I'm sorry, Sam.
I did play as well. It was Salvador, I think, that I played against. We met at the show, and that was really cool. And yeah, he commented on that it was a great game because I like theatrically played good and bad at the right moments that allowed him to enjoy it but still win. And I was like, all on purpose. You know, like that's my skill set.
Opponent.
Yeah, I was like,
cool story.
I was like, yep, that's the style. You know, just fail all my crucial rolls and have you guys do awesome counterattacks to make everything I just did just ow.
But yeah, all right. So KublaCon, yeah, we got to do a convention. I'm sorry if you didn't make it. I'm so happy I got to see you if I did. But then after the show, we had a day or two. We totally just like slept the rest of Monday. We came
back and
Tuesday we woke up and finally got started and got to do solo playtesting. And we were able to take the feedback from the playtesters.
Oh, and it was such good feedback.
Process that, and it was really good, detailed feedback about play experience, and then also difficulty. Things that weren't super clear, and some like really game-changing ideas. And
some excellent,
between the adventures, we added a short rest. A D&D style short rest where characters can kind of choose what they're going to do with their short rest to either like try and scavenge more items or bandage their wounds or whatever. And that was Mad's idea. And then so we implemented that stuff, got it going, and we were able to set up and play through. I think we played 6 of the 7 missions because we just didn't play. We played all
everything.
7. We played all 7 missions. We fought against both
including
bosses.
The prologue. There's 7.
And man, we had a heck of a time. It was so much fun. It was a lot more. It was a lot more balanced where we felt the challenge, but we didn't just get like crushed right away.
Yeah,
because we got that short rest really makes a difference where you aren't just like crippled and then going into the next scenario completely crippled. Because even just healing a little bit between each scenario kept your guys going a lot stronger. So that was awesome. It was so much fun to run through those dungeons and fight those monsters. So then you went back, and then again, that was last week, and then this weekend that just happened, we got another round of playtesting done, where you and your friends threw down. And now
learned more.
Today we spent the morning going back through the playtest or through the document, and it's pretty much cleaned up, and now it's going to get edited. So really stoked. Solo is moving forward at a good pace. We've managed to figure out. Now I know what product design I want, because that was a major barrier. I think I talked about that before.
And that's what we were really like able to crunch down on when we were able to get together and physically play through it, where we were seeing how many of this enemy, and also the design of them, which ones should be used in which scenario and why.
Yeah, and I think we got it so that if people buy the Relic Blade figures for the monsters, it won't be an obscene amount of figures to buy, and then it also, you'll get a lot of use out of each of them. So I think that all is tidied up in a really nice way. I'm super excited because now I can go back and work on the sculpts and really give characterful, really loving detail to the exact number that I need to produce. And so I feel really encouraged. I'm excited. This week I'm planning on sculpting, and I sent the document away to get edited so that we can find all of the weird typos and hanging gerunds. And
hanging gerunds?
Yeah, that's a term, right, for writing. I don't remember what it is. Yeah, but it's some kind of like writing problem.
A gerund.
Anyway, so yeah, gerund. Yeah. And so, yeah, we're moving ahead, and we've got the dungeon crawl. And I was even thinking, as we were doing the edit, thinking about changing what type of dungeon terrain you need. Because the way it's designed, you have rooms that you'll have like a 4-inch by 4-inch square for a small room, and 8-inch by 8-inch square for a large room. There's a 4-inch by 8-inch room for a long room. Yeah. And like you can arrange them different ways to build your dungeon encounters. But there was platforms where they were smaller,
yes,
and they could stack on top of the rooms or set next to the rooms to create different layouts. And I was on the fence about whether I should include those because it adds an extra level of requirement for people to be able to, build their dungeon terrain. But then I told Ash Barker that I was going to remove them, and he was like, "Oh, why? Like, please don't."
Yeah.
He was like, "I think it's so cool." So instead, I went in and made the dungeon layouts include even more platforms.
Yeah, was able to
not more number of platforms that you'll need to build, but just in the layouts, integrating them more throughout.
Yeah,
and so the whole thing is coming along really cool.
Because I love the distinctions now between like room and platform, and that some of the rooms now feature like what equates to like a secret passage that's this open platform area that is really cool, I think, from like a theming perspective. And now there's a nice like mechanical element that was not really present in the previous versions of the rules that still featured platforms. It was like they're there and you can set platforms up, and that's
like
cool.
We had the rules for how they work, but because we were still learning the format, right? So as we were writing the scenarios, we had to figure out exactly how we were going to implement all the ingredients that we'd agreed upon. And so again, going back and being like, oh, you'll only end up with 2 of the beast creatures because we're going to produce 2 beast figures.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, well, in some missions there will be 3, in some missions there will be 0.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to make sure we're really locking in on the product and what what each player is expected to have on hand, but then also making sure what they have on hand is fun and played with rather than just for a corner case.
Yeah, and I think one thing that curiously enough sort of helped us like unlock this little puzzle in our head is thinking about it in like this sort of weird video game kind of way, where you were talking about the spawns, how you can only have X amount, available at a time, and if those 2 are out, you're gonna spawn the next strongest guy. And it sort of like had this vibe of like a video game respawn system that has all of the enemies kind of cycling.
Yeah, because that was the cycle of the weaker, medium, and strong enemies. That's something that's in Cretaceous Commandos, and so that's something I got to explore as I was playtesting that I was able to cycle back and bring into Relic Blade Solo, because I haven't really written solo games very much, so it's a little bit newer, and laying the foundation for Relic Blade Solo is really important because it's laying a foundation for like my main livelihood, my main game, in a format that Relic Blade's an action RPG, so having this player versus environment adventure mode where you're moving heavy blocks to lock into chambers to solve puzzles and unlock new portions of the dungeon, you this needs to be good. It needs to be
Yeah,
right.
no,
It can't just be if an enemy's near you, they charge you, or if they are shy, then they dodge. Like, it can't just be that. It has to be
they're shy.
just
Oh,
right.
look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's what's so interesting about it, because like the iteration that we've arrived at feels so nice, so tight, so intentional,
Yeah.
where now with all of the pieces that we have in place, it's just like the word foundation, where it's just like, oh my goodness, like this is really cool, because while this adventure is specific, it contains like these key kind of ingredients that that really open up the future for what can be done with Relic Blade Adventures being like an action
and I think
RPG.
this campaign has lots of replayability.
Yes, it totally does.
It's been exciting and crazy each time I've played it. So there's tons of variation built into just this first campaign, but like you said, it's building this foundation for future Relic Blade adventures, and my dream of Relic Blade being this action RPG really is coming to fruition, because the fantasy genre includes the climactic battle between the two war bands, right, where named heroes and villains are finally showing down. But there's also this like daily adventure of Skyrim, entering a tomb and hitting a zombie and finding a treasure that I feel like would be really fun to do with Relic Blade. And just having the solo format means that we can do even just small adventures or bigger adventures. Like this one is really connected to the themes and stories and adventure of the Storms of Kural. But I don't know, I'm really excited for the potential of writing like smaller content where you'll be able to do new, simpler adventures, or adventures that tie back to older storylines.
Because we were talking about in the campaign craft episodes about like the relics being like MacGuffins for entire adventures, and you think about the possibility for campaigns that have players going after a specific relic for a reason, and there's different warbands involved and different sort of activation charts that really create this kind of particular narrative, all the way down to something where it's just like the Ogsul are attacking the temple and you gotta defend it, and it's just like temple defense scenario, where it's just like a one-off thing. It's like get 100 points, you have 100 threat, and you have your secret actions.
Well, even with that, because part of the Catacombs of Kural is that an adversary in control of his two champions and an advocate in control of her two champions are working together to try and deal with this adventure. Yeah. And so just like that, you'd be able to have that be an adventure that happens partway through a campaign. If you just want a different play experience.
Like, we talk about campaign craft.
Yeah, a different play experience, throwing in a temple defense against the Ogsul, which are the trolls from this Catacombs of Kural campaign. Like those figures played into a normal game night of Relic Blade, it's going to be really cool. I'm excited.
Yeah, and to kind of dive a little bit more on the theme of this adventure, what is kind of like, there's no real ideal way to play, but sort of the way it's themed is if you and your buddy are playing Storms of Kural, and you have the four advocates, four adversaries, just everything using from the set. You play
From the
through,
box set,
yeah, you play from the box set. You play through the campaign. You go through. You have a conclusion, right? And then from that conclusion, you just jump immediately into Catacombs of Kural. You take those same characters that you were just playing with, and you shuffle them. I get two, you get two, and then boom, we're in the prologue. And you take the upgrades that those characters had. Boom, boom, boom. That's the upgrade deck, for the thing. And then start playing Catacombs of Kural with these characters. And then, and then you see if this, and it's just like this continuous theme of like what could happen where, earlier in the afternoon, we were battling against each other in Relic Blade's traditional dynamic, scenario, tactical driven, like against getting relics and unleashing crazy attacks on each other. There's that cool narrative. And then by the evening, where these two characters that were at each other's throats, earlier in the day, are now trying to help each other escape from the catacombs, and that's sort of kind of exactly what it's kind of built like, in a way, and that's an interesting like happy side effect, because what this was originally going to be was Escape from the Decrepit Depths, which was going to follow the events of the summer global campaign on Tabletop Simulator, where we introduced like the Beetle Legion, the Depth Beetle Legion, and the Beetle King. And the Beetle King like breaks free from the shackles and causes these crazy earthquakes to happen. You're deep fighting him in this subterranean realm, and then your guys fall down, and they fall into the decrepit depths. And while everything is like collapsing around them, they're trying to run from room to room, and they're battling what were called the Depth Denizens, which were just monsters from the monster chart. And then chop the zombie up, get to this room, blah blah blah, and then that was that. And then after all of our talks and meetings and it's like ideas about what could happen, because we were like, to reference back to the beginning, we were talking about like product design, and what to kind of do with at some point, Sean just sculpted a whole bunch of little troglodyte warrior dudes. It's just, boom. Here's 25-ish sculpts, And then it came to the point, well, like, let's do something with them. Let's use them. Relic Blade needs some bad guys. It's a sort of external threat enemy that's not a seeker. It's
it's been a big process of like a collaborative stew.
Yeah, so many like crazy
where the flavors
ideas.
Been mixing and stirring up into something like new, even though we had intentions going in. It's really developed uniquely by being, because this expansion in particular, I think Storms of Kural too, but this one even more so, has been more of like closer to a 50-50 split of game design between you and me, where we're like messing with stuff and figuring out exactly what we want for it. And like I said at the beginning of this show, like laying this foundation right has been a lot of pressure.
For sure, because like we mentioned in a previous episode where like you can't, and curiously enough, someone reached out to me yesterday seeing the stories that I was sharing about the playtesting, and they said that they were so excited about Solo because they've been playing Solo against using just the enemy behavior types, the guard in Predator, and I was like, that's super interesting that you're able, because is this basic skeletal framework of like AI behavior that can be used, and it's those kind of elements that made me think about, starting to play Relic Blade against myself, and tons of games where I've just played Relic Blade against myself with one warband against the other warband. And there is a possibility for this simplistic, if you want to play Relic Blade solo or co-op, if you want to play co-op, give your friend control of those two guys, where there's more intention behind it, and there's more mechanical difference between playing solo and in playing cooperative now. There's a lot of these things that have emerged that have really made crafting this whole system like just makes so much sense as it comes closer and closer to fruition, where I'm just like, to think back and feel like that that I was like, I don't know what else needs to be done. I don't know, and then we do all these things, and I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's this right here, and this makes total sense. And like, to reference another kind of feedback game-changing thing that sort of clicks into a way that made us both see both like an interesting mechanic that has real cool like player kind of depth, like tactical choice, and a little bit of like agency that was missing. And that was the idea that you can re-roll a dice on the activation chart, but your character has to lose an AD. And that was a great idea, and it was themed, I think, in the feedback to be something like that a wizard can do on like a prognostication kind of thing. And while that was an interesting theme, when it hit us that focus, like the way that the focus action functions in Relic Blade, and applying that to kind of be what you pay for with this mechanic, and that it just all clicked in, and that it was like, that makes so much sense.
Because focus in general is really an interesting rule, because it's not just the cost of the die, because you can only do it once. So because you have to choose one thing to focus on, and so there's an opportunity cost also.
Yeah.
So like, because often I think of it a lot with rogues, where you want to focus dodge, so you've got 2 dodge tokens, but then you also want to focus on hitting with your dagger, because it's hard to hit stuff with your dagger. So, and then you also want to focus on lighting the brazier, so it all the more the cost to benefit analysis for a reroll becomes more complicated, because you're losing not only an AD, but you're losing the ability to focus on something else. But ones are so bad that you've got to try. And so if you're using that caution reroll to reroll your result on the activation chart, which is how enemies proc and activate. So a bad roll will see multiple enemies doing bad stuff to you, and a good roll, like a 5 or a 6, will see you being able to activate uninterrupted by the game. And so being able to reroll gives you a sense of, like, when you roll a 1, it's not just a proud hero being a bumbling fool. If you roll a 1 and then you re-roll a 1, like, the dungeon is very dangerous.
Like, the ambush,
your best efforts are not stopping the monsters from bursting through. And so I think it reinforces so much, and then it also gives us a chance to, like, kind of balance the activation chart, because it's not just a straight D6 something bad will happen. It's like something bad will happen, but probably someone will re-roll it. So it's really snake eyes is when you get the really bad results.
And it's in playtesting that happened, and it was crazy. And also several times the re-roll 1 to a 6 happened, and the fist bumps, come through. But just the way that Relic Blade, because we had 2 kind of moments like this that sort of were just like, oh, the Relic Blade system is so interesting and unique for this specific reason, where the concept of focusing on the activation result, it thematically works as your character, is trying to prepare or get themselves in a different position, switch footing. It's got all these different thematic kind of meanings. But then later we also realized, because of the enemy targeting rules, that they target characters with dodge tokens. And that initially I put that in just because I wanted them to shed dodges. Like enemies are just gonna, if multiple, like for example, if you get an ambush and you have one dodge token on you, one's gonna try and hit you with the dodge, and then deliberately try to get you to use it so that you are open for an attack or something like that. But it occurred to us later that the dodge token, because of the targeting rules and the activation results and stuff, it functions as a taunt in like a traditional kind of dungeon crawler, where the character with the taunt, or rather with the dodge action, is going to be like taunting the
they
creature.
Become the priority target. Because it's interesting because the dodge token really represents the character's behavior, like that they're investing their activation in a defensive behavior, and that includes it includes
so much
investing in using your shield to protect your friends, or including the fighting style, right? So it's been really cool to watch the again, the action RPG elements of Relic Blade just continue to translate so well into the adventure of fighting trolls in these dungeons, and the howling enemies chasing you. It reminds me of
there was so many neat ideas
in the Hobbit,
that came out
in the Hobbit books, when the dwarves are running through and the goblins are chasing after them.
Yeah, for sure. I think especially with some of the new rules that we kind of zoomed in on and made a little better, the rule of the encroaching horde, which
and that thematically it makes more sense, because originally at turn 3 and on turn 5, the monsters from the original setup would respawn, and so as its naked game mechanics, that is us saying like, oh, you probably killed some monsters, let's put you're still in a dangerous situation, the monsters come back. But now it's explicitly that the enemies, armed forces of the enemies, are in pursuit of you, and so the first thing to arrive are their scouts, which are these hounds, and then the next thing that arrives are the warriors, and then the last thing to arrive is soldiers plus one of the elites. And so it continues that same, like, you're being pursued by this basically an army. And as you know, Relic Blade's a game of heroes and swords, and when you're fighting against the whole army, it's not quite a fair fight, and so you gotta keep going, because in Relic Blade, like, anyone can die from a sword. Like, you don't, it doesn't matter if you're level 20.
It's crazy. And this mode is going to really, it's going to, having that a real knowledge of Relic Blade mechanics, and in addition to the new mechanics that we've represented, and they're not really, we haven't really there's a few new rules, but they're very sort of like basic, and most of the mechanics are sort of just, say, expanded targeting behavior, so to speak,
for wild monsters,
for monsters and stuff. But there isn't a whole heap new to learn. You're really playing Relic Blade, just that you kind of got one little new kind of frame on it. And all of these, like, I guess to just put into words, a simple distinction is when you choose a character in Relic Blade to activate, and they activate, and you spend a a AD to do a dodge action, the token remains on the character until that character activates again. And so an important distinction to like understand in the solo would be that when you choose a character to activate in solo, you nominate them and then you roll on the activation chart and you resolve those results asterisks before the character activates. And why that's important is that you don't like choose a character and then like remove their dodge token and then roll on the chart
and then find out what happened.
Yeah,
because the core is in Relic Blade you have alternating activation, so I'll activate my cleric and then you activate your wizard and then I activate my knight. And so because in solo you've got 4 heroes in this party, there isn't an implicit alternating activation. And so the activation chart is where you roll to find out whether the character is ready to have initiative over the dangers of the dungeon and the other monsters, or if that opening between your character's activations is going to be exploited by the enemy. And so there are varying degrees where multiple enemies could activate or rather trigger attacks between your actions, or you'll roll really well and your team will be working like a well-oiled machine.
Exactly.
And they won't
dynamic
be
hero moments.
Yeah, so with the activation chart is the biggest change to how you play Relic Blade. And again, it'll take someone reading through the booklet to know how to play Relic Blade solo, but I've always really prioritized making sure it takes time to say it, but nothing is overly complicated. There's nothing that's like you gotta like try and wrap your mind around. Hopefully it's reinforced by theme. Hopefully it's reinforced by clear words that you'll just be like, oh, that makes sense.
And I think that's one of the greatest strengths, because like going back to the idea of like how things were designed before and how things could easily be designed, it's like, there's the monster generator in the back, generate a monster, and here's a basic activation chart, and there's so much there's that basic framework that could be used for sure, but what was important that we kind of got down was this close marriage between enemy behavior, enemy design, scenario design, activation chart design that makes all of these things, like you say, reinforced by theme. And
I mean, and again, like you have to fight the guys who are trying to stop you, but the scenarios are all super active. Like you are there to try and achieve those Dungeons and Dragons exciting puzzles while being harried.
Or being blasted by traps.
Exactly. I love that, sneaking around, having rogues disable traps while goblins are popping out of the shadows and your wizards blasting with fireballs.
And again, as an example, like the traps, the enemies have high armor in those scenarios, and the traps would have the potion that burns armor. So it's like if your rogue manages to activate, it doesn't trigger the trap, sneaks up, disables the trap, gets the upgrade, throws the corrosive vial on the high armor enemy, just splashes it, reducing his armor, and then comes in with like a crazy crit backstab. Like these activations just it's so cool because you're just like, holy
I don't want to
smokes.
Spoil all the sweet puzzles, but it is like it's cool. It definitely when I play tested it with my brother and my friend Matt, like we have background, like I've gotten my brother to play Warhammer with me over the years, but for the most part he's been really into D&D. And Matt played Warhammer back in the day, but has gotten more into role playing as his hobby. And so sitting down and showing them this, it really struck them, just as it struck you and I, that these adventures are a tactical D&D setup where you feel like, oh my gosh, this is what I wanted a D&D encounter to be like.
Yeah.
It reminds watching Hankerin for a nail on Index RPG with his rune hammer. He
Yes.
has a lot of really good videos where he talks about how to DM and how to set up encounters, and I think that his mentality of like setting it up and showing people the prizes and treats and the triggers and the timers, all
Yes, I
that
love
game design
the
stuff,
timers.
that he talked about really influenced the way I think about these adventures. And so I'm really excited to try and bring in more of that action RPG element
Yeah.
to the Relic Blade
Yeah.
format.
With things, there's things that aren't even touched in this solo thing, like keywords for characters. Like there's just so many interesting corners to go and explore. I'm excited. I hope that all y'all are excited for.
Yeah, because this is it. This is what this is the main Relic Blade development right now.
Catacombs of Kural.
Really trying to get Catacombs of Kural out. And moving forward, I'll be sculpting the rest of this week, and going to be going through copy editing, and hopefully we can move forward and have it released before too long.
Yes.
So
it'll be cool. I think that was gonna wrap it up for us today, y'all.
Yeah, man.
I'm really looking forward to finishing my playtesting session because I got my little setup right over there. The Black Site Studio stuff is perfect for it. There's a lot of great things, especially with the new changes you made to the map. Setting them up is cool. Like I'm like, oh, look at this little level right here. It's a level,
Yeah.
It's a little level. It's neat.
It is.
But all right, my man. Good chatting. This has been Relicbuds, Ep04, Solo Splashdown in the deep goo. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Goodbye, Relic Buds.
Bye.